Hi, Patrick here, have Cheetah Will View, and welcome to Dollar Theater. Dollar Theater is a ongoing series that my good friend Hobbs with Horror has started, and and it is where we review films that we have gotten acquired for $1.25 or less. So anything you get for $1.25 or less, it qualifies for Dollar Theater. So the movie that we're going to be talking about today is somewhat of a request. I actually have both versions of this film, so I will be covering both versions. Um, but I thought I'd do the first one first, right? And then we'll cover the second one a little bit down the road. But this is a first time watch for me, and this is going to probably surprise a lot of people when they find out the movie that we're going to be talking about is a first time watch, and that included me because I actually thought I had seen this movie a while ago, but it turns out when I watched it, I did not have never seen it. So the movie we're going to be talking about today is 1959's House on Haunted Hill. House on Haunted Hill, of course, was directed by the great William Castle. It was written by Rob White, produced by Rob White, William Castle, and it has a killer cast. The killer cast is Vincent Price. He plays Frederick Lauren. Carol Olmert plays his wife, Annabelle Lauren. Richard Long plays Lance Schroeder, test pilot. Alan Marshall, Dr. David Trent. Carolyn Craig as Nora Manning. Elisha Cook Jr. as Watson Pritchard. And Julie Mitchum as Ruth Bridgers. And Leona Anderson as Mrs. Slides, Howard Huffman as Jonah Slides. So the premise is thus. So Frederick Lauren is a multi-millionaire. He's one of those eccentric millionaires, a little bit odd. But he has decided that he's going to throw a party in honor of his fourth wife, Annabelle. And so he has invited some people to come over to this house. So supposedly, according to Watson, is haunted. Seven people have died there in most grisly fashion. Now, we really don't know if that's the case or not, but we definitely know it is in his mind. So there's half of it, half the truth right there. He thinks the house is terribly haunted, and he is erect by it. But he still comes. He still comes to the invitation because it's his house. He owns the house, and he has rented out to Frederick Lauren. Uh, and so they get this house. They get this house, and what Frederick's going to do, he's going to invite these people over, and then when they have to stay the night from 12 midnight to 8 in the morning, they have to stay overnight. To everybody who does, they get $10,000. And of course, if anything happens to the people inside the house, the pot gets divided up among the survivors. Interesting. Uh, we see right away that Frederick and Annabelle are not your typical loving couple. Frederick is cruel. He's actually an abuser, and not a very nice guy. Of course, we don't know about Annabelle because she seems to be just a straight out gold digger and wouldn't hesitate to put a knife in his back if given the opportunity. So they're not very nice people. And of course, they each say this party's for the other. And then we meet the guest. We meet dashing Richard Long as Lance Schroeder. He's a test pilot, and he also needs the money. That's one thing everybody here is has in common. They all need 10 grand. Dr. Trent, he wants the money too. He probably doesn't need it, but he wants it. Nora Manning works for one of Lauren's companies. She just basically got her name pulled from a hat and got invited to spend the night. So she has never met Frederick Lauren. She's just a cog in the machine. Elisha Cook, of course, Watson Pritchard, of course, owns the house, but he still got to stay overnight too. He's still got to go through it. And then we meet newspaper columnist Ruth Bridgers, who's played by Julie Mitchum, and she has a gambling problem, so she will definitely stay the night for 10 grand. Uh, so, yikes. A lot of people, a lot of money, up for grabs, but they got to survive the night. And things start happening right away. Nora starts seeing ghosts. Uh, there's bangs in the night. Lance gets his head banged up, going through all these different rooms. Just everything that could, everything that starts creeping out right away, including the doors. Everybody has till midnight to leave the house. And when Nora has had enough after she wants to get out, but unfortunately the caretakers have shut the house down early. So the time that she would have had to escape, now she can't. Now she's locked in with the rest of them. Uh, so of course now we go ahead and then we get to the meat of the story. We see that Annabelle has been murdered. Has been murdered. She is. Of course, they're setting it up to see that she committed suicide, but it's obvious to everybody that that's impossible. And Frederick Lauren calls out on it, says, "Well, it could be one of you guys." Definitely throwing the suspicions on all the guests. But then Lance goes ahead and says, "Well, that sounds good. Well, yet you're the only one who will benefit from this. So how does that help us? We think you had the motive." So and then to add up the pressure a little bit, Frederick Lawrence says, "Okay, look, we're all going to go to our rooms. We're all going to stay. We're going to like anybody comes out of the room has something to hide." And he says, "Well, we're going to make this a little bit more interesting. Everybody gets a gun." And he proves that the gun is real. Lauren pops off a cap and peels back a cap and shoots a bowl, and we know that the bullets in the gun are definitely yeah. Of course, now it looks like Nora has been killed as well. Nora looks like she's been killed as well, but she hasn't. But Lance says, look, they think you're all dead. So what we do is stay in your room. Don't go out. Don't do anything. Stay here. You'll be safer here." And so he goes out to investigate, and then he gets waylaid. Um, and everybody goes through the different rooms looking for the different things. Different ghostly apparitions pop up, and then it looks really bad because Nora gets terribly frightened out of her room, and she runs screaming for Lance down into the basement, and she thinks that Frederick Lauren is indeed the murderer, is trying to drive her crazy, and so when he comes down the stairs, she pops him, but then the game really starts. And we can't go further than that because even though some of you probably already know the story, there's still some like myself who didn't know the story. So we'll stop right there, saying that not is all what it seems. There's a lot of misdirection in this movie, and I got to tell you, this is actually a terrific film. Um, this is a cat and mouse game at its finest. Really, really interesting film. Vincent Price um, gave a great performance as Frederick Lauren. Um, I mean, he's dapper, but he's menacing. He he seems like he's been pushed to the edge. The actions that we see earlier in the movie really don't go with his personality. When he grabs his wife by the hair and pulls her back, and it didn't really seem to be, that's really who he is. But he's being something's inside him eating him alive. His wife, why she does seem pretty cruel, but she also seems to, but she also seems to, well, she seems to have a little bit of a heart, but that the dollar signs are pretty large in her eyes, and if something were to happen to Frederick, right? Um, the rest of the cast is really good. David Trent, really good. The only person that got sort of short shifted as far as screen time goes is the newspaper columnist. I mean, her character really wasn't needed, and it was just sort of superfluous. Just there for plot. Even though later on something happens, and but we still don't know. The thing about it is, we don't know if that is actually true or not. And you have to watch to see what I'm talking about. Of course, Richard Long. This movie had a bit of a tragic history, though. Um, that's one thing I was surprised about. It had a little bit of a little bit of a tragic history as far as the cast goes. Starting with Carol Olmart. Carol Olmart was just an absolutely stunning woman, stunning looking woman. She's just absolutely beautiful, and she should have been a big star. From everybody says she should have been a big star, but she got stuck doing B movies, and she's just couldn't break out of it. She actually retired earlier from the films, and she got into New Age. She got into New Age religion and what have you. Later on, she was assaulted by three men that put her in the hospital, and don't know if that affected the length of her life or not. She died at 74, but they're not sure if that wasn't caused by some of the damage from her assault earlier. Richard Long went on to success. He was a very sturdy leading man character, and he also starred in the classic TV western The Big Valley, where he played Jared Barkley, the eldest of the boys. Richard Long died of a heart attack, though. He died relatively young, and I think he died. He was only 47 years old when he passed away. He died of a massive heart attack, and that was a real shame. Um, uh, Carolyn Craig, who played Nora Manning, was stunning as well. Beautiful actress. But unfortunately for her, um, while she wanted to act, she got married. Her first marriage did not work out very well, but the second marriage it seemed to be really going well. But then her husband asked for divorce, and that led to Carolyn Craig. She ended up, after her husband asked for a divorce, later on that year, she ended up taking her own life with a pistol. She committed suicide. Uh, so it was a tragic ending for some of the people in this film. Um, it's a very effective movie. This is one of those movies that William Castle brought out one of his famous gimmicks for the theater, and this one was called Emergo. And what that was during certain scenes of House of Haunted Hill, during the tense scenes, a pulley and a rig were set up overhead by the people who owned the theater, and they would run out a ghost across the cast, across the audience. So the audience would look up and see this ghost. And William Castle was always doing that. He was the king of that. Something always different with him. And so it affected a lot of people because there's some tension in this movie. If you're sitting there and you see a ghost through the window and you're like, and then all of a sudden this ghost is flying over your head, you're probably gonna scream. So, so good for William Castle. This movie made a lot of money. In fact, this is actually the movie that inspired. This movie inspired Alfred Hitchcock to make Psycho, because William Castle made millions on this movie. He made it for $200,000, and the movie ended up making over about $2.5 million. That's a lot of money back then, a lot of money. And so William Hitchcock, he decided he was inspired by this to make Psycho, and of course William Castle also was inspired by Hitchcock. And after he made Psycho, William Castle came back and made Homicidal, which was his take on Psycho. Um, so two very different film masters. One is described as schlock, and one is described as a master director. But in actuality, both of them are pretty damn good. Like I said, this could have been a Alfred Hitchcock film. Quite honestly, this could have been a Hitchcock film. Maybe the dialogue needed to be punched up a little bit, but the suspense and the tension and the characters, very, very Hitchcock. Very, very done very, very well. Or should I say Castle? And should maybe Psycho, we should sit there and say It was a very William Castle type movie. I really like this movie a lot, and I'm glad to review it. And this one here, it's on public domain. It's everywhere. You can get this everywhere, including on YouTube. You can watch this. This is public domain. I don't know where my buddy Catfish got his copy, but I got it from him. There's no extras on here or anything like that. Though I do think that there have been releases with full special features on there, including commentary. And of course, this movie gets made fun of at riff tracks, but that's only because of William Castle's name's attached to it. That's the only reason why people mock this movie. They mock it because of William Castle. If you took his name away and you didn't know it was him, you would be looking at this movie a little bit differently. All right, well that's it for this one. Thanks for watching, and we will see you for the next one. And yeah, if you have a film request, drop it in the comments down below. If I have it and I've gotten it for $1.25 or less, I will cover it. I'll be happy to do so. I had a lot of fun doing this one, and we'll see you for the next one. Peace. Oh, of course, let me do this. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and then drop a comment down below. Share us out. And thank you so much for supporting me and Dollar Theater. And thank you.